welcome to the newest episode of the Rice Crypto Show. Today, I'm going to be sharing the presentation that I made for Crypto Mindset Reset 2 that took place this past Tuesday, April the 18th. It is entitled, When Enough People Take a Stand, Nothing Can Stand Against the People. And I will have links down below so that you can watch both full days of the Crypto Mindset Reset Part 2. Day 1 and Day 2 are both available on the Rice TVX Rumble channel.
Coming up here in just 1 minute, we've got Chris Rice from Rice TVX. And if you missed the beginning of the summit, him and I had a great chat at the very, very beginning to kick things off. And Chris is a good friend and a good person, and has an amazing channel, not only here on Rumble, but also on YouTube. One of those channels that you're bound to learn something new when you watch. Every single video will bring you some amazing content. So we want to bring Chris Rice on, and thank you so much for taking the time to come join us again. Love to hear from you. Go ahead and give the people a little introduction who you are for the new viewers, and I'll let you take the mic.
Cool. Well, thanks again, man, for having me on for Day 1 of Crypto Mindset Reset 2. And I appreciate everybody that is taking the time to watch on my Rumble channel. If you guys are watching on Rumble, please take time to give this video a thumbs up. That way it helps with the algorithm, and maybe some new people will be able to find out about this free virtual summit. So please take time to hit that like button. And also, I would encourage you to make sure you're subscribed. If you want to find more information about me as a content creator and where you can find my channels and social media, my website is ricetvx.com, and you'll find links to both of my YouTube channels. So I call myself a content creator, a journalist, a freedom fighter, and that includes researching as well. I've been nicknamed the American Pitbull, and I call myself the open-minded skeptic. Rice TVX focuses on crypto, economics, and politics. And my new channel, the sister channel, is Rice Against the Grain. And there we go down the rabbit holes of fringe topics, conspiracies, legal fiction, law studies, hidden alternative history, spirituality, and a lot more. So depending on what you like, you may like all the above. Make sure you check out both the channels. Other than that, I try to let what I do speak for itself. And the heart of the messages and the methodology, the philosophy behind Rice TVX is practice change. And that is something that I try to encourage others to be on their very own path of change and to practice this daily. It's going to be a different walk for everybody. So I'm not asking anybody to follow my walk or follow my specific example. I'm just asking that people individually be the change that they want to see in the world. And like I said, we can everyday practice being the best version of us. We can learn from everything that we do, whether it's good, bad, positive, and negative. The end of the day, beginning of the day, think about the things that you can improve upon and practice being a better you. And you're going to make mistakes in this process. It's not a perfect walk. It's not an easy walk. But the more that you do it, the more mindful you are. And the more of us that I feel try to be the change, or are being the change that we want to see in the world, the more that we together can make an impact, because it does take strength in numbers. I have this saying that when enough people take a stand, nothing can stand against the people. And I want to say that we can peacefully change the world, but we need to have enough people. I don't feel like we have enough people, and we need to try our best to wake up our fellow man and woman, our brothers and sisters. Try to have compassion for those that suffer from cognitive dissonance. Try to have compassion for those that just don't want to see truth for what it is. Try to plant seeds and water seeds that other people have planted, so that we can try to break through to these individuals. Because again, when we have enough people and when enough people take a stand, nothing can stand against the people. And one of the most important things that I started to realize is my rights, my freedom, they rely upon your rights and your freedom. So I'll simplify that. My freedom relies upon your freedom. And we're at a really pivotal point in history where it seems like the governments are trying to implement legislation that's ultimately going to give more control. We see the central bank digital currencies being introduced. Some countries have already implemented a central bank digital currencies. Others are experimenting, testing things out. We're seeing it on a national level with the Digital Dollar Project via the Federal Reserve of New York. We have Project Hamilton. I believe that is an MIT study done with the Boston Fed, if I'm correct. There's also other organizations like the Digital Dollar Project that's looking into things. There's been a lot of talk about the public sector, and that would include stable coins like USDC potentially being a replacement for what could be a digital dollar. But ultimately, a stable coin, a central bank digital currency, they're all the same thing. No matter what you call it, a digital dollar, it's all programmable currency. And we're seeing a tightening of control going on, which also means a lack of privacy. And if legislation goes through without people speaking up to their constituents, then we're going to get a central bank digital currency we do not want. And what I mean by that is we're going to get a central bank digital currency. One way or another, it's coming. It's set in stone. It's just what kind of central bank digital currency do we have? And the reason I say it's coming is because we are at the end of this fiat monetary cycle that the US dollar is currently the world reserve currency of. Things are changing. But in order for a new system to come to birth, the old system has to go away. And that's what we're seeing with the failing of fiat currencies being inflated, losing purchasing power all around the world. That's what we're seeing with everything that's going on with the Federal Reserve and all the other central banks, because they want to usher us into a digital age where they have more control. Now, if you're just quiet about it and you don't write or communicate to your politicians on a state and federal level, then ultimately you're consenting. And that's ultimately the problem that we have in the United States specifically, because I don't live in another nation, so I can't speak for another nation. But here, things happen because of the consent of the governed. And when you don't speak out, you're consenting. So it's a little bit of a harsh reality, but you need to come to terms to realize that you, me, everybody watching this, and again, I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to you. I am the problem. You are the problem. We are the problem. I am the solution. You are the solution. And we are the solution. So we are equally the problem and we are equally the solution. And I encourage you to start being more of the solution and less of the problem. Stop complaining about things you don't like and do something about it. There's things that you can do to inform your local community about what's happening on a political spectrum when it comes to cryptocurrencies. Right now, you see today, Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC, has been being grilled by Congress. I'm not sure if it's just a circus show, if it's a pot calling the kettle black, or if some of these actual politicians mean what they're saying and speaking out against what Gary Gensler and the SEC is doing to the crypto industry and the United States. So we need to think about new solutions to old problems and new problems. With the coming of the central bank digital currency and me encouraging you to be the change that you want to see in the world, one of those solutions is agorism. And agorism is using counter economics, which in this case would be not using the US dollar, not using the fiat currencies, not feeding the banking beast. And I'll get back into the banking beast. Agorism also includes parallel marketplaces, parallel societies, breakaway communities. But most importantly, it starts locally. So I really would encourage people to make sure that you're thinking and acting locally when it comes to using counter economics and creating parallel markets and breakaway communities. And the more that we do this locally, the more that we can interconnect these local communities. Cordal is a great cryptocurrency project that I think is going to offer a lot of solutions for privacy and communication, for us to have our own intranet or Internet 3.0 that's private between the Cordal blockchain users. So I do think there's a lot of great solutions in the cryptocurrency space. And I think we need to support the projects that are offering those real solutions versus chasing US dollars, chasing the next big thing, investing in meme coins. Invest in something that's going to be important for your future. With the idea of a central bank digital currency and the lack of privacy, maybe it would be a good thing to have some privacy coins, things like Pirate Chain, Monero, Zcash. But privacy coins are going to be very important moving forward. Because again, I don't feel like we have enough people right now to really totally make the change that we need to, but that doesn't mean that we don't need to try. Because if we don't speak up, if we don't make our voice heard, again, you're consenting and you're being part of the problem. And the encouragement that I want to give is to stop being part of the problem and be more of the solution. So agorism, counter economics, parallel markets, breakaway communities, thinking and acting locally, using blockchains like Cordal, looking into platforms like freedomcells.org, and that's freedom S, or excuse me, CELLS.org. Freedom, CELLS.org. And then peoples with an S, rights.org. Peoplesrights.org. Those two websites will allow you to connect up with your local community. And then those local communities get interconnected into bigger communities. So check out both those websites. Now, with the time that I have remaining, I have a challenge for everybody who's watching this. I mentioned the banking beast and stop feeding the beast. Our banking system is based on fractional reserve banking. I don't have the time to explain all the intricacies of this fraudulent system that we call fractional reserve banking, but it's based on usury and debt. There's no actual real money involved. It's all currency. Money is things like gold and silver. Currency would be like your fiat money, your fiat currency. So with that being said, with what's happening to the banks, the way that we empower the banks is the more money that we leave in banks, the more that they're able to lend out. So for every dollar you put in a bank, they can lend out 9 times that amount, 9 more dollars. That is empowering the banks. With everything that's going on, a lot of people see the collapse of local and regional banks, and a lot of people are trying to move to bigger banks, the ones they think are too big to fail. And that's exactly what the central banks, want you to do, the Federal Reserve. That's what they ultimately want you to do. Ultimately, this is going to come down to the Federal Reserve and each central bank in each nation. Fed now will offer everybody a bank account. Right now, the Federal Reserve cannot offer bank accounts, but I am sure there's going to be legislation that's going to be introduced that will do just that. They tried introducing legislation like that back in early 2020, mid 2020, with the Banking for All Act, where everybody would have been given a Federal Reserve account. So don't close up your local bank, your regional bank accounts, and move to a bigger bank. If you need to use banking and you cannot unbank yourself, then what I would encourage you to do is to use credit unions, because they fall under something different than FDIC. And you're not empowering the TradFi traditional legacy banking system. If you have to use the banks and you can't use the credit unions, then the other thing I would ask and encourage you to do is withdraw everything that you don't need to leave in the bank to cover your bills. Because you should be looking at your bank account like any sort of investment at this point. They always say never invest more than you're willing to lose. In this case, with what's happening to the banks, with the way regulation and laws have been changed, where what we known as bailouts will become bail-ins, and you can look up bail-ins because the U.S. government has passed legislation to allow for bail-ins, which would be you and me, the people who are putting their money in the banks. They're the ones who's going to be at a loss with this bail-in situation. So I encourage you, only leave what you need to cover your bills, because the more money that you leave in a bank, the more power that you're giving those banks. Again, for every dollar in the bank that you leave, they can lend out $9 more. Don't allow for that to happen. If you can unbank yourself completely, there are ways that you can get around the system. There are ways that you can still utilize banking without have banking accounts. There are prepaid cards, there are Cash App, there are different mechanisms. There are crypto cards that you can get that act as debit cards. There are ways of getting around this. I encourage you to use cash, because they do want to make cash obsolete so they can go in this digital central bank direction. And I encourage you to take what you need to take out of the bank. Otherwise, I'm warning you, you may wake up one day and not have your money in the bank. You may have the scenario that happens, and this is very likely that something like this could happen, that on a Friday afternoon, the banking system starts to shutter. By Saturday, there's news to the general public that this is going on. By Sunday, everybody's freaking out. And Monday is the introduction of the central bank digital currency. So again, my freedom, my rights, they rely upon your freedom, your rights. And when enough people take a stand, nothing can stand against the people. And I encourage you to realize that you are equally the problem and the solution, and stop being the problem and be more of the solution. If you want to find more information on me and what I do, again, you can find links to all my social media, both of my YouTube channels, Rice TVX and Rice Against the Grain, at my website, ricetvx.com. that must be the groovy dude.
What's up, guys? What's up, guys? What a powerful situation we have here, Rice. You've really covered a lot of ground. These are real world solutions that we really kind of, I feel like we need to repeat. So maybe a lot of the viewers out there aren't familiar with these ideas, and there's a lot of new people coming in, and so it is really important to kind of keep repeating this. Let's look at what the real world solutions are now. And I like to say, what we have, we hold. There's been a lot of overreach. There's been a lot of encroachment on freedoms and things like that. And it seems to be trending that way, where it's kind of continuing. So I just say, hey, what we have, we hold. And so that means using cash. That means looking at credit unions. That means, working with crypto and the crypto community, people who are, kind of like-minded. So it's
Oh,
amazing.
And,
So
and I feel I got to be repetitious with these messages, because I'm going to be stuck on repeat until everybody gets what I'm saying, and we can move forward.
yeah, exactly. And there's really nothing wrong with that. If you've already heard this information, you need to hear it again. That's all right. I think that's important. An important reminder. I like credit unions a lot, but you're not often motivated to say, well, I'm going to change my whole, banking system and do whatever I'm going to.
No, but what's happened though lately has been a wake up call. And
I mean,
ultimately, the more bank failures we see, the more money printing we're going to see happen, because I don't feel as if the Federal Reserve and the US government is going to allow for depositors to lose their money. But anything over the FDIC max, which I believe is 150 or 250,000, is one of
250.
the 250.
Yeah.
Anything above that, people aren't going to get. It's not going to bail out like board members and things to that
No,
effect.
no, no. But I think people miss an important point. That FDIC may come through for you, but they'll have to print more money to do that. So
Right.
you
So
may get your
you're
money, but it'd be devalued.
right. So you're
You
again,
know?
that's where I'm saying that we're the problem and the solution, is stop being the problem. So don't expect the government to give you your money, because them giving you the money is them putting more money into existence, which devalues all the other money. It just
Yep.
makes the problem that much worse. That's why I
Yep.
say again, stop being the problem, start being the solution. You got an angel on one shoulder and a demon on the other. It's like, what are you going to feed? Where are you going to
Yeah.
put your energy?
It's always that way. It's always that way. We did have one question come through the chat room, so I wanted to share that with you. And it's a powerful question because I think it makes a lot of sense. Maybe it's an early question, maybe we're a little early now, but eventually this is going to be a relevant question, which is, what are you willing to give up? Because in some cases, yeah, you may need to give up the CBDC. They may not let you stand 1 foot in CBDC and 1 foot in Bitcoin. That may not, operate. So, are people willing to give things up, and do you really have to give things up? Maybe we build our own, communities, and if you want to speak to that point if there's any thoughts you
Yeah,
have
but
on that.
building a community in the United States kind of still puts you under the jurisdiction of the United States. I mean, we could see plenty of situations where people were doing things that maybe I do or don't agree with, but we've seen the alphabet agencies come in with guns and just take matters in their own hands. So that's why I see a bunch of communities being built in, like specifically in Mexico and different parts of South America, Belize, Costa Rica. A lot of people are looking at other nations as building communities because they know that they're going to have more success with that community actually continuing versus being targeted. Because in the United States, if it gets to a crazy situation like Red Dawn, you're going to be very targeted. So, the question is, and I've had to think about this myself, like if regulations get that much worse and it's really stifling crypto to the point that on and off ramps just don't exist and they're making it basically impossible aside from peer to peer. Are you willing to leave the United States? Are you willing to potentially expatriate? I mean, there takes a lot of sacrifice, because now what I didn't add to the banking thing is the most important thing is it's going to be easier for people to deposit money in their bank account than it will be to withdraw that money, because right now it's harder and harder to withdraw smaller amounts of money. Like, I think right now there's minimum of like 5-day business average wait for like a $5,000 withdrawal. So that's why I say only leave in what you need. It's going to be inconvenient for you to possibly have to go to the bank every 2 weeks to deposit what you need to have in there. But if you do it that way, you're at least securing that you're not losing more than you can afford to lose, because you're not putting it all in the bank. So again, the less money you have in a bank, the less they can lend out. And right now, with the way the rates are and everything, it's just like you're going to see more banks collapsing. I think I told you this, Mike. I would love to see everybody just close their bank account, even just for one day. Now we can't even get people on the same page to do that when it comes to like gasoline, because I'm sure you've heard that. Like, if we all just didn't get gasoline for one day, how much it would affect the oil industry. And we can't even get citizens to agree to do that on one day. If we could do that with banks, like Trace Mayer does every January 3rd in anniversary of the Genesis block origin, he has Proof of Keys Day, where he encourages everyone to take their cryptocurrency off of a centralized exchange and put it in a wallet that you possess and control the private key of. And I think once, twice a year, everybody should pull their money out of the banks, hold the banks accountable.
Yeah,
Because the thing is let me finish. Like, the thing is, like, they're not ready to introduce the central bank digital currency quite yet. They're getting there, but they're not ready. If they were, then we would already see a collapse of the banking system. But if we can collapse the banking system on our own by not participating, they're not ready for the central bank digital currency. It throws, to me, if there is an agenda and a plan, it completely throws it off. If we just let the dominoes fall right now, they just keep propped up. If people would just have the balls to close their bank account, take their cash out.
I love it. That's such a brilliant move, and it would throw them for a loop. They seem to be ready for almost anything, but
I have
to
one
stress
bank
test.
account, just so people know that I'm not like talking out my ass, and I don't practice what I preach here. I don't know exactly what I got. I think it's less than $50, but I bank with Truist. They bought BB&T. I got
Nice,
$39.79 in my bank account.
nice.